the data. Number one, competency. By the way, competencies are defined as reliably measurable characteristics of a person. There are three kinds of competencies: knowledge, skill, traits. So knowledge, skill, or trait, I'm just going to ask you, which of those, which kind of competence do you think matters most to the client? A trait. And which trait do you think? Integrity. You got it. Integrity is number one, top of the list. Now you might think, now how can integrity matter more than how smart someone is? The answer to that question, in the essence of time, is there are smart, dishonest people. You know, if you read the book, The Smartest Guys in the Room, the Enron book, they probably were. They're in a different room now. But they, and they may be the smartest guy in the new room. They're in too, right? But they're still in the new room and it's got bars on it. Right? So the smartest guy in the room, I actually am doing some work with Bob Ewing and Nick Decor and their team. Some of you are familiar with their work. And by the way, I'm impressed with what's going on with those guys. I think you've got some possibilities in those funds if you haven't considered them lately. But it was interesting going back, and I go out and work with them in their Boston office. And what was interesting about it is I actually found that on the way out there one trip, I'm reading my variety of newspapers, and the NYMEX guy had just been indicted. The guy that was the New York Mercantile Exchange, the head of their compliance committee, had just been indicted for, it turns out he was taking positions during the course of the day, and Pat, you read this, at the end of the day, it turned out that it could have been a technical thing or something, could have been a glitch, but what was happening is the better trades were in his account, and the less good trades fell to the customer. Now again, it could have been a technical problem, and I'm sure he's going to argue his computer wasn't working at the end of the day. He's still indicted. Now he hasn't been convicted yet, but I asked this group of analysts, and by the way, we're talking quant geeks, we're talking, you know, MIT PhDs, and I said, what do you think it is about that? You know, what do you think it is? Do you think it was the guy didn't get it intellectually, technically? What do you think? And one of the guys who would come in late, if you haven't been out to this property, it's on the bay in Boston, it's beautiful, worth going, they'd welcome your visit. We're sitting around this big table, we got all these folks there, the portfolio managers, analysts, everybody's there. And somebody who had come in late was sitting behind me, I didn't even know he was there. He said, it's a moral issue. That's it. It's a moral issue. When we talk about, and Chuck mentioned emotional and moral, we talk about sustainable, optimal performance. We're a performance company. Sustainable is all about moral. Optimal is all about emotional. If you don't have directional commitment and directional moral competencies, you do not have a sustainable proposition. Sustainable is about moral. Optimal is about emotional. Now, again, table stakes still have to be there, still have to be smart. So the research doesn't say being smart doesn't matter. It just says it doesn't matter enough to the client. You have to be smart, but it's not your differentiator. Number one is integrity. Number two is client service orientation. Client service orientation is really about responsibility and compassion. It's about big picture planning, understanding the client, understanding their family, understanding their values, actively caring about their well-being, and personally accepting responsibility for doing the best thing you can for them. Though that's also a moral competency. Top two competencies are moral. Number three is concern for order and quality. This is actually technical now. We're finally into a technical competency. This is about planning and tracking, keeping score, keeping good records, making sure that you record the conversations, to make notes, not necessarily audio recordings, but you're actually note-taking, you're on top of it, your files are up to date, you're actually doing planning, you're actually doing tracking. Number four is teamwork and collaboration. This isn't a bunch of people sharing office space. This is people working together to serve the client. And in our business, most of us grew up as lone rangers. Some of us now loosely affiliate with other people, But the people who actually are doing the best aren't loose affiliations with other people where we share, office space or resources. These are actually people who team up to serve the client. And people bring different expertise to the equation. And that's an emotional competence, by the way. And number 5 is self-confidence. That's also an emotional competence. The 6th one is achievement. It didn't get any votes, so none of you were wrong about it not being in the top 5, but it is number 6. Achievement orientation, however, we could have defined it and you didn't see the definition. Achievement orientation here is not about personal achievement, it's about achievement on behalf of your client. Had you known that, I'm guessing more of you would have voted for it. So it's not about I'm into it for me, it's I'm into it, I want to be the best at actually helping my clients. Incidentally, number 7, first entry for cognitive was conceptual thinking. So we finally got there. You can read the white paper, find it on the Ameriprise site. What site is that, Kim? How do they find it?
Compass.
On Compass.
It's on Compass under the financial planning tab.
Yeah, so on Compass under the financial planning tab, and alternatively, you can also go to our website. It's literally mentioned on the front cover. Judy?
Lunch is ready.
Oh, lunch is ready. It's
If I could
12:15.
maybe just
We have to have
add
lunch. Thank you.
If I could just add one more thing before we leave this topic. There were degrees of demonstrating this competency which made a difference. So all of the advisors in the research consider themselves honest and operating with integrity. But the best demonstrated what we call level 5 integrity. And level 5 integrity is they were willing to walk away from the relationship. The client was going to do something that was not in their best interest, in the client's best interest. So level 1 integrity would have been being honest, providing full and fair disclosure. But the best advisors demonstrated level 5 integrity. The best advisors demonstrated the competency of teamwork. And teamwork is not just working with other advisors, but working with multi-generations of the client's family. So their kids or their parents. It also includes their other advisors, so their CPA and their attorneys. Okay? Those 6 or 7 competencies, so the 5 that are up here, achievement and conceptual thinking, those 7 competencies, and conceptual thinking was not broken out specifically because there was so much overlap of conceptual thinking and things like concern for order and quality, integrity, and achievement. So it wasn't broken out specifically, but if you had those 5 with achievement, those 6 competencies accounted for 70% of the difference in return. And those 6 competencies are developable. So it's not just that I have to have them in order to be successful. No matter how good I am at those 6, I can get better. And that's what this is about. Okay?
Lunch is served, I don't know where.
Why don't we get back? How long do you want to break for lunch?
30 minutes.
Why don't we say 1 o'clock? We'll give everybody 45 minutes.